This is a camera with mysterious powers. It can take pictures of dead people. It also contains the power to bring people back to life. So many people want to get it. The place where the camera is stored is the legendary Yellow Springs Road, protected by powerful underworld guards. But someone stole the camera while the guards were attacking other thieves. And the man did it for his sick son. But the guards came after him. The guards promised the man to save his son. The price was that the child's descendants would only live to the age of 35, and they would be accompanied by the spirits of the dead. And so hundreds of generations passed. The curse was still with the family. Not only are they short-lived, but they can also see the ghosts that roam the world. Kizu is the man in charge of the camera in this generation. On this day, he was about to get married, but Kizu resisted, because he was marrying someone who had been dead for days, just to fulfill the ghost's last wish. But Kizu's resistance angered the ghost. Luckily, Kizu had two other partners. The ghost was temporarily deterred. At night, the ghost got angry and set fire to the house, so Kizu was evicted by his landlord. On the other side, this woman's name is Han Chun. She used to be a prosecutor. Because of her boss' offense, she lost her job and couldn't even pay her rent. If she doesn't succeed in her interview with the lawyer, she'll have to sleep on the street. The lobby of this company is very empty, but in Kizu's eyes, it's full of ghosts. He had to wear sunglasses to hide them, but he was still blocked by the ghosts. He rushed into the elevator. He thought he was safe for now, but there was a ghost in the elevator. The ghost attacked Kizu and caused the elevator to malfunction. At that moment, Han Chun came here for a job interview. She opened the elevator right away. Kizu could only protect Han Chun from the ghost, but Han Chun seemed to have some kind of power that made the ghost fly away. Kizu looked at Han Chun in surprise and asked who she was, but Han Chun was too busy going to the interview to talk. Kizu was worried about renting a room. He even asked the ghost for advice on where to find a cheap apartment. Then an old lady invited him to see a flat, and this old lady was Han Chun's landlord. That day, a dead man came to the photo studio. Kizu asked him what was the last memory he wanted to keep in the world. Without hesitation, the man said his wife. He wanted to take a picture with her now. It turns out that not long ago, a woman came forward. She said she had killed her husband with her own hands, and Han Chun volunteered to be her defense attorney. In order to fulfill the man's wish, Kizu brought his two partners to the police station, and these two are actually ghosts. After helping to get rid of the ghosts in the room, Kizu explained the situation to the woman. At night, the woman went to the photo studio. She met her dead husband. They had their last dinner, and recorded their last moments with a camera. This is the biggest reason for the existence of this photo studio. In the evening, Han Chun returned to her apartment and found that the password had been changed. The landlord had taken out all her belongings, and her cell phone was out of battery. At that moment, Han Chun noticed a light downstairs. When she entered the house, she found no one there. Only one room was lit up. When we went in, we found a strange room. Kizu came out at the same time. He found Han Chun entering the photo studio. Kizu suspected that Han Chun was dead, but when he shook her hand, he realized it was still warm. He also found her shadow on the floor. Kizu was very surprised, because only a ghost can open the studio's door. Then Han Chun found out that Kizu was the one who rented her house, but Kizu wasn't in the mood to discuss that. He kicked Han Chun out, and then the door of the photo studio was suddenly opened. It means another ghost has appeared. A child appeared in front of Kizu, and this was the last ghost Kizu wanted to see, because children are the most annoying. After talking to him, the child's name is Yun Hai. He was accidentally hit by a car on the road. Kizu asked him what his wish was. He could only stay for a maximum of 3 days before he had to leave. Then Kizu took Yun Hai to some toy stores. Unfortunately, all the toy swords Yun Hai wanted were sold out. He ran away in anger. When Kizu returned home, he found Han Chun setting up a tent on the roof. There was a child inside. Yun Hai's name was written on his school bag. Kizu was surprised that Han Chun could see Yun Hai, but Yun Hai said he didn't know him. Yun Hai ran downstairs. Han Chun chased after him. By nightfall, Kizu finally got the toy sword, but he saw Yun Hai eating with Han Chun. When he saw Kizu coming, Yun Hai cried in fear. Kizu was about to teach him a lesson when his partner appeared with the real Yun Hai. Yun Hai rushed to stop Kizu, because the boy was his brother. Yun Yu. It's true that Han Chun can't see ghosts. And then he found out from Yun Hai what really happened. That his brother loved that toy sword. As an older brother, Yun Hai planned to buy the toy sword for his brother's birthday. Yun Hai was holding his own piggy bank, and was going to buy it. He was knocked down while crossing the street. The money was scattered all over the place. Yun Hai scrambled to pick up the money. Then a car drove by at high speed. It ran right into Yun Hai. Yun Yu came to the intersection with a toy airplane. He didn't want the toy sword at all. Now he just wants his brother back. But you can't come back from the dead. After Kizu succeeded in gaining Yun Yu's trust by using the code word between brothers, he took him to a photo studio. After being photographed by the camera, he can see the dead for a short time. Seeing his brother in front of him, Yun Yu rushed up and hugged him. In order not to upset his brother, Yun Hai could only lie that he had gone on a mission. He would be back soon. Having fulfilled his wish, Yun Hai disappeared into the photo studio. But Kizu, who was in control of the camera, was constantly being hunted by ghosts? Because they all want to take the camera and bring the dead back to life. Faced with the attack of the ghosts, Kizu struggled desperately. At the critical moment, Han Chuan appeared and saved Kizu. Kizu wanted to ask her who she was. A group of policemen appeared in front of him. It turned out that Han Chuan thought that Kizu had abducted the little boy, Yun Yu. He called the police and brought him back to the station. I didn't realize there were ghosts in the police station, but when they attacked Kizu, they were blocked out. This made Kizu move towards Han Chuan. Since Kizu couldn't find anyone to bail him out, he had to be put in a cell. Han Chuan asked him why he had the pictures of Yun Yu and Yun Hai. Kizu told her that he could actually see them, and that he could take pictures of dead people. But Han Chuan thought Kizu was joking and just left, until his ghost partner possessed someone else. Then he bailed Kizu out. Then Kizu came to the church and complained to the priest. Why did God give Han Chuan that power and he didn't? But the priest told him that today is the anniversary of his death. All those people were paying homage to him, so the priest was dead. Now he was just a ghost. Kizu left in a hurry. At night, the priest came to the photo studio. He asked Kizu to do him a favor. It turned out that he had saved some videos on his computer before he died. He didn't want anyone to find them. Meanwhile, Han Chuan came to the photo studio again. Looking at the pictures on the wall, Han Chuan realized that Kizu wasn't lying. Kizu wanted Han Chuan to protect him for 100 days. After that, he would return the house to her. Kizu came to the priest's office the next day to help him delete the files. He didn't realize that the priest had forgotten the password to the computer. Then someone from the church came by. Kizu was taken for a thief and sent to the police station again. He had to call Han Chuan for help. Now there's only one way to prove Kizu's wrongdoing: to turn on the computer. Luckily, the priest remembered the password. The files on the computer were actually some albums. The priest wanted to let the world know that he likes these songs. The problem was solved. Han Chuan still refused Kizu's invitation, because now she just wants to be an ordinary citizen. When Grandma found out that Han Chuan was being suppressed by her boss, she was going to plead for him, but she suddenly became unwell. Unfortunately, Grandma was kicked out by the security guards without even meeting the others, thinking that if she can't do it this time, she'll do it a few more times. When Grandma got on the bus, the whole person suddenly froze. Then she fell backwards. She was still concerned about the gift box, but not long after she stood up and fell again. Soon after, Han Chuan received a call from the hospital. Inside the photo studio, Kizu suddenly saw her grandmother appear. He thought she wanted to see him, but then it occurred to him that only the dead could come in here. He realized what was going on. At that moment, Han Chuan was too sad. She was in the middle of the road and couldn't move. Kizu came to take her away. He told her that he saw her in the photo studio. Han Chuan cried and wished it wasn't true. Then Kizu accompanied Han Chuan to the hospital. The moment she saw her grandmother's body, Han Chuan still didn't want to believe it. When she wasn't looking, the ghost partner took her cell phone and account book. It turned out that Grandma had requested him to do so. She wanted to see how much money the mourners had given her. After all, you have to get back what you paid for in life. When Han Chuan came back, she realized that the stuff had disappeared. Then she checked the surveillance camera and found that it was moving in the air. Han Chuan realized who did it. Then she went straight to the photo studio. Since Han Chuan was surrounded by a protective field, the ghost partner didn't dare to stop him, and the grandmother was still in the photo studio. But now, Han Chuan couldn't see her at all. Soon, Han Chuan realized that Grandma was here. Han Chuan thought that Grandma didn't want to see him, but she didn't want to make her sad. Han Chuan wanted to take Grandma to see the flowers to fulfill her wish, and this is his last chance. Kizu promised Han Chuan to fulfill her wish. This night, Grandma was dressed up for the occasion. When she arrived at the photo booth, she realized that Kizu had already arranged everything, and Han Chuan was also there. Kizu had told her to meet Grandma at 12 o'clock. As they approached, Kizu pressed the shutter of the camera. With a flash of white light, Han Chuan slowly opened her eyes, and realized that she had seen her grandmother's figure. She went straight to her grandmother and hugged her. But time passed quickly. Grandma will be leaving soon after she fulfills her wish. Kizu took a picture of them. When the photo was finished, Grandma disappeared. Han Chuan hugged the photo and cried. However, after taking pictures with a dead person, there's also an after effect. They think the dead are still alive. Sometimes they would see ghosts wandering around. The next day, Han Chuan went to work. She thought it was over, but she asked Kizu how long it would take for the after effects of seeing ghosts to go away. Didn't she say it would go away soon? Kizu asked her what other ghosts she could see now. Unexpectedly, Han Chuan pointed out the location of all the ghosts in the neighborhood. Kizu had never seen anything like this before. He didn't know how to help her recover. Luckily, Han Chuan had a protective circle around her that prevented her from being attacked by the ghosts. To make up for his mistake, Kizu gave Han Chuan some evil spirits, but Han Chuan didn't realize how serious it was to see a ghost. Kizu even asked him to save his phone number, to call him in case of any special situation. Since he had just started seeing ghosts, Han Chuan called Kizu from time to time, to ask him to help him out, but Han Chun's behavior was already being watched by the ghosts. That day, She came to the hospital to help a patient with a lawsuit. She was introducing herself. She didn't realize that the nurse next to her asked her what she was doing, and said that the patient had just died. It turns out that what Han Chun sees now is just a ghost with a grudge, and hospitals have the most ghosts. They seem to realize that Han Chun can see them, so they chased after him directly. Han Chun was so scared that he ran away, but she didn't expect to meet a man who approached her. Han Chun thought it was just a normal conversation. When she took a closer look, the man in front of her was a ghost. Han Chun could only run away again. When she got home, she remembered Kizu. He was once questioned by himself. After all, it's ridiculous to say that you can see ghosts. And then he remembered what he had experienced today. And that experience is with Kizu every day. She has begun to sympathize with him. Han Chun came to Kizu to comfort him, and this scene instantly reminded Kizu of his childhood. There was also a girl who comforted him like this. She told him not to give up hope. That night, Han Chun went home alone. Suddenly, many ghosts appeared beside her. She wanted to pretend she couldn't see them, but since she hadn't yet adapted to this power, she was still startled, so she left quickly. Then a ghost stopped her in front of her. Han Chun rushed to call Kizu. Then the ghost started to attack her, and her protective circle didn't work. Luckily, Kizu arrived in time to kill the ghost, but this is an experience that Han Chun doesn't want to go through again. She wanted Kizu to help her get back to her old self. Kizu remained silent for a while. In order to restore Han Chen's eyes to their previous state, she had to be photographed again. The ghosts must be involved in the process. Kizu risked being killed by the ghost. Kizu promised to fulfill the ghost's unfulfilled wish. Only then did the ghost agree to take the photo and leave the world. Before leaving, the ghost once again asked Kizu to fulfill his wish. Kizu then opened the door to the dead and let the ghost go. But as a living person, he couldn't touch the gate, and the consequence of doing so is to aggravate the ghost's aura. His life could be in danger at any time. The next day, Han Chun went out and watched carefully. She didn't see any ghosts. She thought she was finally relieved. At this time, a man was driving a courier, suddenly felt a little tired. He wanted to chew some gum to relieve himself, but it was obvious that he was under the influence of the ghost. The ghost gradually took control of the man. The car began to lose control and crashed forward. The man also realized something was wrong, and the ghost's target seems to be the Han Chun not far away. Man doesn't want to hurt the innocent. Turned the wheel at the last minute, eventually caused a series of car accidents. Han Chun ran over to check on the injured with a sense of urgency, and the ghost of a recently deceased person appeared. Han Chun looked around carefully. He realized that many ghosts have already appeared. It seems that they realized that Han Chun could see them. The ghosts directly rushed towards Han Chun. Soon, Han Chun was surrounded. At that moment, a hand blocked Han Chun's view. Kizu appeared next to him in time. Their protective circle also repelled the ghosts, and Kizu fainted due to the aggravation of the ghost's aura. The courier Zhao Ming, who was driving the car, suddenly woke up from the car. He realized he was in the wild. His cell phone had no signal. At that moment, a few people came along. Zhao Ming wanted to ask questions, but he realized that they couldn't see him. Then the scene changed. Zhao Ming returned to the scene of the accident. He saw himself lying on a stretcher. He realized that he was already dead. Soon after, Zhao Ming opened the door of the photo studio and met Kizu. Zhao Ming told him that his lack of sleep had caused the accident and killed many innocent people. He felt that he was not qualified to take pictures, but Kizu knew that Zhao Ming was also affected by ghosts. It's not his fault. Kizu asked Han Chun to meet him. Then he slowly approached her, because he realized that the protection circle will only be triggered when the two of them are close enough. Sure enough, when Kizu got close, the circle started to activate. Looking at Kizu, who was so close, Han Chun suddenly asked him if he liked him too, but Kizu rejected him mercilessly. He said he only liked the protective circle. When Han Chun came back, he became more and more angry. Kizu took Zhao Ming to his graduation ceremony. This is Zhao Ming's biggest obsession, and Kizu wanted to do more. He asked the principal to send Zhao Ming's certificate. He even organized a special ceremony for Zhao Ming, but the news was reporting that many people were killed due to Zhao Ming's mistake, although the police said they were investigating the cause. But those who don't know the truth only believe what they hear, and that's what Zhao Ming blames himself for. The truth is that the courier company had been asking Zhao Ming to work overtime for a long time, but the supervisor burned all of Zhao Ming's work records for his own future. He also asked other employees to keep this a secret, but the co-worker remembered his relationship with Zhao Ming, and he didn't want his children to be treated like this. He was willing to testify for Zhao Ming, and Han Chun acted as their attorney. Ghost's partner went to the supervisor's computer and found evidence of his embezzlement, and then he made a public announcement to expose himself. Eventually, the case was successfully won. The partners came to the photo studio to witness Zhao Ming getting his graduation certificate so that Zhao Ming could leave with peace of mind. After the case was settled, Han Chun asked Kizu for a drink. He promised to stay with him for a while. Then he kissed Kizu. Han Chun has fallen in love with this man. The man in front of him is a counselor. His job is to counsel people who are depressed, and he fell in love with a woman he often chatted with. Until one day, she told him she was in love and hung up on him. This made the man very unhappy. He thought she was ungrateful, so he found out the woman's house code. He disguised the house house as if there were 2 people living there. The woman was shocked when she came home. What's even worse, when the woman brought her boyfriend home to make out, the boyfriend found a men's item under the pillow. He instantly felt betrayed, so he asked the woman to break up with him, and told the woman to go to hell. Thus the woman's condition worsened. The man became her counselor again, and now he has become a ghost still searching for the woman. He found Han Chun to help him. At first, Han Chun thought the man was a good guy, until a colleague told her the truth. But it was too late. The man became a ghost and possessed Han Chun directly. He took control of Han Chun's body and stood on the bridge, and made Kizu come here too. Because the man realized that Kizu loved Han Chun, he asked Kizu to bring the woman to him with Han Chun's life. Kizu didn't hesitate and rushed forward and hugged Han Chun. The two of them closed the distance. The circle of protection took effect, and forced the demon out of Han Chun's body. But the man didn't give up. He was still trying to pull them down with his powers. Luckily, at the critical moment, Ghost partner came and subdued the ghost. Han Chun came to his senses and hugged Kizu tightly. During the time she was possessed, her memory was completely erased. She was relieved to know that no one was harmed, and since the man's death was related to the woman, Han Chun volunteered to help. She proved that she killed the man because she was being followed. Han Chun found out important information about the shoes. When arguing with the police, the shoes became the key evidence. The police had nothing to say in front of the evidence. The woman was also a victim. In order to alleviate the woman's after effects, they even remodeled her home to remove all traces of the crime. I thought the matter had been resolved, but that man hasn't disappeared yet. In order to get to the shore, he killed 2 fishermen. I thought the man would go back for revenge. I didn't expect another ghost to appear behind him. It's the same ghost that controlled the courier. He directly attacked the man and sucked out his grievances, and the ghost became even more powerful. That day, Kizu brought Han Chun and his colleagues for a barbecue. One of his partners, Pei Nam Kao, caught the culprit, but he saw the divorce papers. It turned out that his wife had already decided to divorce him before his death. She even fell in love with another man. Watching this scene, Pei Nam Kao felt anger in his heart. He couldn't control it and it affected the reality. Even when he ate the barbecue, he was not in the right state. He asked for the man's address and went to look for him. Kizu realized that something was wrong with him. Then Pei Nam Kao went to the flower store. He found his wife's photo there. He remembered that his wife used to come here for lessons. Pei Nam Kao looked at the chat records. He realized that his wife had been in love with this man since then. Pei Nam Kao couldn't take it. He took control of the vase and smashed it. Just when he wanted to continue, Kizu appeared in time to stop him. Pei Nam Kao knew he would become a ghost. Kizu told him to think it over. After all, it's not easy to be betrayed. That day, Kizu went out camping with Han Chun. He left his partner Sang Ho to take care of the photo studio. The ghost had already appeared outside. It sucked the blood of many cats. The aura caused the lights around the place to flicker, and his appearance means Kiss's life is counting down. He's also targeting the camera. Luckily, Kiss's time to die has not yet come. The ghost can't enter the studio and take it. When Kizu returned, he found that the police had sealed off the place, and the cats' bodies were near the house, although there's no evidence. But Kizu is still listed as the first suspect. In order not to worry Han Chun, Kizu lied about a thief at the photo studio, and Pei Nam Kao had a choice. He couldn't allow himself to become a murderous ghost. After they had sorted it out, a ghost came to the photo studio, and this man had been dead for 4 years. He didn't want to believe it, and ran out of the studio, and this ghost seemed to know Han Chun. To be safe, we must destroy him first. Sang Ho was given the job of taking care of the photo studio. Then he realized that Han Chun was hanging the photo he took of Kizu a few days ago. He took them down quickly, because all the photos on this wall were all posthumous photos, including the uncle Kizu had been looking for. Han Chun looked at Kiz's photos. He realized why he asked him to take pictures of him. When Kizu came back at night, Han Chun asked him to confirm it. Then she found the countdown calendar in her room. She realized that everything was true. Han Chun felt bad. She didn't want to be the one to take Kiz's last picture. Then she turned around and left. Kizu went back to the photo studio to find out about the escaped ghost. His name is Kim Yun-chul. According to his profile, he's a murderer. He's suspected of killing 2 people in a villa, but some lawyers thought Kim Yun-chul's case was suspicious, so he was released on bail. But the next day, Kim Yun-chul was found hanging in his house. As no suspicion of murder could be found, the case was closed as a suicide. Kizu remembered when Kim Yun-chul entered the photo studio yesterday. Kim Yun-chul said he was killed. Now we have to find out some details. The lawyer who defended Kim Yun-chul was Han Chun. Because Han Chun insisted on his own opinion, he offended his boss. That's why he can't find a job anywhere. Han Chun found Kim Yun-chul. He went back to the photo studio to discuss it again. He told the truth about what happened back then. He was invited by the other 2 to steal some money from the villa. At that time, Kim Yun-chul was not rich, so he agreed. When he arrived at the villa that night, he found them dead. His fingerprints were also found at the scene. The police recognized him as the murderer. Kim Yun-chul also said that he had been wandering in the underworld for 3 years. He was guided to the photo studio by one person, and that person was Kiss's uncle. They started investigating the details of the case. The ghost possessed a murderer, and then broke away from the police officer next to him, and ran straight towards Kizu. Kizu could only run away quickly. He dropped his cell phone on the ground. On the other hand, Han Chun called Kizu. but no one answered, so he rushed to find him. Kizu was chased by a ghost. Then he realized that the ghost is made up of many ghosts. When the ghosts were about to kill Kizu, Han Chuan appeared and stopped him. The ghosts switched targets. Kizu rushed to approach Han Chuan. The protective circle took effect and repelled the ghosts. The police arrived and subdued the man. Han Chuan hugged Kizu tightly. He asked him not to leave without him. Kizu said he would do his best to survive. He also wanted to accompany Han Chuan to see his 36 years of life. Since the Kim Yun-chul case came back into the public eye, Han Chen's former boss, Minister Lee, began to be questioned. But he has a lot of power now. He's not worried about this case being overturned. He even said in front of the media that Kim Yun-chul was the murderer. Kim Yun-chul, who was in the photo studio, immediately turned into a ghost. He wanted to attack Mr. Lee directly. Pei Nam Kao stopped him and told him to trust Kizu. In the car, Mr. Lee received a message from the police officer who handled this case 20 years ago. He told him to talk to him face to face or he'll reveal the truth to the public. But in fact, Sang Ho took the man's cell phone and sent the message to Mr. Lee, so that the two of them could meet. They met at night. They talked about the details of the case. The entire conversation was recorded on a cell phone. While they were talking, the car suddenly started moving. The car stopped at a remote place. It's obvious that Pei Nam Kao and Sang Ho were the ones who operated the car. Kizu also entered the car at the right time and picked up the recorded cell phone. If this recording is released now, the power of public opinion will definitely overwhelm Minister Lee. Kizu told Mr. Lee that the death of the man doesn't mean it's over. He would continue to pursue the case until the day the truth came out. The next day, Kizu found Kim Yun-chul's sister. Because the 3-day period would soon be over, Kim Yun-chul also had to leave. At first, the sister thought Kizu was a liar, until Kizu revealed some secrets about her family. Then he handed her a business card. He told her to meet her brother for the last time in the evening. At night, she came to the photo studio and brought her mom with her. If this is really the last time, they would have regretted not seeing him. The mom also prepared a dress for her son. Kim Yun-chul, who had changed his clothes, sat next to his family. After being photographed by the camera for the first time, the family could see Kim Yun-chul's figure. They hugged each other tightly and cherished this last moment. Soon after the second picture was taken, Kim Yun-chul passed away. Kizu and the others continued their investigation and found out that one of the people who died at the villa had been involved in a car accident caused by a drunk driver, resulting in 2 deaths and 1 injury. The 2 dead people were Han Chen's parents. In order to find out the truth as soon as possible, Han Chuan and Kizu went to the scene of the accident to see if they can remember anything. Han Chuan walked into the tunnel. Some images came to her mind. 20 years ago, Kizu's uncle was passing through the tunnel when he noticed the accident. He rescued Han Chuan from the car when she was a child. Uncle wanted to get out of the tunnel and call the police. Han Chuan pulled him back. Afraid he'd abandon him, Uncle let Han Chuan keep the camera. He said it was a camera that could bring people back to life. To reassure the little girl, I didn't realize that, when he came out of the tunnel, he was hit by a car and killed. The same car that hit Han Chen's family earlier. Han Chuan rushed to hide, although she was not found, but she is slowly losing consciousness. At that moment, the camera flashed and engraved a mark on Han Chen's hand, and also saved Han Chuan from the ghost gate back. Remembering everything? She told Kizu. Kizu realized why he had no information about his uncle for so many years. Everything about the accident was covered up by someone. At that moment, Mr. Lee was thinking about what Kizu said that night. His heart was in turmoil. He's worried that the truth will be uncovered, and one of the people involved in the case is being pursued for a debt. He had to call Minister Lee, but Minister Lee never answered. At that moment, Pei Nam Kao came to him with a photo. He found him being beaten up. Now this man is an important witness. His safety must be ensured first. So he took a cab and brought him to the photo studio. He told Kizu to ask him about the incident. Kizu knew he wouldn't give up easily, so he gave him his card and told him to contact him if he was in danger. And the man called and threatened someone. If he didn't pay the hush money, he'd reveal what happened back then. By the next day, Kizu and the others couldn't reach him, but he sent Kizu a text message. Kizu had to go to his place to look for him, but we haven't identified the rooms yet. They had to look for him room by room. That's when the security guard came to inquire. In order to get rid of him, Sang Ho could only possess the guard and control him to leave. Kizu entered the room and found his uncle's notice in the box. Then he pushed open the bathroom door. The man was sitting in the bath. Kizu went over and found the man had been killed. The person who caused the accident was actually Minister Lee's son, and the owner of Kizu's room. A policeman appeared behind him. Kizu looked behind him. The ghost was working with the police. The policeman finally recognized Kizu's identity. Han Chuan seemed to notice something was wrong and kept calling Kizu. At that moment, Kizu walked up to her. Han Chuan was about to rush over and hug him, but she passed through Kizu's body. Han Chuan looked at Kizu and realized something. At that moment, Kizu was lying in the ambulance and his heart was slowly stopping. Back in time, before the accident, a few rich kids were having fun. In order to seek excitement, the speed of the car is getting faster and faster. Because of his status, he joked that he wouldn't be responsible even if he killed someone. Then he wobbled into the tunnel. At that moment, the Han Chuan family was coming from the opposite direction. The two cars collided directly. The white car flipped over from the impact. Lee Seon-ho got out of the car to check. The people in the car were still alive. The car touched Lee Seon-ho's pants. He was so scared that he dropped his cell phone on the ground. ground. Then he drove away. He realized he hadn't taken his cell phone when he was halfway there. As they were rushing back, Uncle Kizu appeared outside the tunnel. In order to kill him, Lee Seon-ho drove his car right into his uncle. He used his father's identity to cover up the truth, and he became a cop. He was able to tell the details of the case. Because Lee Seon-ho was already under the influence of the ghost, he wasn't going to let Kizu go out alive. He put on his gloves and took out a knife and attacked Kizu. Kizu was quickly stabbed due to the difference in strength. He could only find a chance to push Lee Seon-ho out of the room and run to a crowded place. Lee Seon-ho had to stop first. After taking care of Kizu, the ghost manipulated Lee Seon-ho's body to open the door of the photo studio. Just when he was about to get the camera, he realized that they were outside the door again. The ghost realized that Kizu was still alive. At that moment, Han Chun also received a call. She realized that Kizu was still alive. She rushed to the hospital, but Kizu didn't wake up so soon. Lee Seon-ho came to the hospital room, again under the control of the ghost. Han Chun learned everything from Kizu. He knew that he was the culprit. Luckily, when Han Chun got close to Kizu, the protective circle took effect. He forced Lee Seon-ho and the ghost to retreat. Lee Seon-ho could only think of other ways. He used his position as a police officer to call someone to investigate Kizu's photo studio. He found a body in the room. It was the same man who died earlier. Since Han Chun was the owner of the house, she was soon taken away by the police. Han Chun couldn't stay with Kizu either. After a while, Lee Seon-ho came to the hospital room, but Kizu had already been moved. Han Chun also told the truth and let the police check it out. Plus, Kizu found the surveillance of Lee Seon-ho moving the body. He sent it directly to the police. The police realized that the real murderer was Lee Seon-ho. When Lee Seon-ho was about to strike again, the police ambushed him in advance. But Lee Seon-ho was possessed by a ghost. He's very skillful. He took Han Chun, who had just arrived at the hospital, and fled to the top floor. At this point, Kizu is only a spirit and can't touch them. Lee Seon-ho realized that he couldn't escape and jumped to the top of the building with Han Chun. At the last moment, maybe it's because of the protective circle, Kizu tightly pulled Han Chun and slowly pulled her up. Just when they were happy to be alive, Kizu's body slowly disappeared again. Because today is Kizu's 35th birthday, it was also the time for the curse to break. Then Kizu appeared in front of her uncle's photo studio. After entering, he finally met his uncle. Uncle wants Kizu to take his picture. Maybe that's why Kizu came here. After taking the picture, the uncle is relieved to be on his way. Kizu is waking up in the hospital bed. Han Chun came to Kizu's hospital room. Looking at the empty bed, he thought Kizu had disappeared completely. He was frozen in place. At that moment, Kizu appeared from behind with a bottle of medicine. Luckily, it wasn't an illusion. Han Chun hugged Kizu tightly. Lee Seon-ho didn't fall to his death. He was lying on the bed. Kizu came in to make him angry. He prepared him for a long prison sentence. But Lee Seon-ho didn't care. It didn't matter to him at all. As long as his father found a connection, Kizu didn't argue with him. The facts speak for themselves. Soon Lee Seon-ho was no longer calm. His father publicly announced that he had no knowledge of his son's case, and promised not to get involved in the case. Lee Seon-ho began to panic, and Kizu's birthday passed. This means that his curse is slowly disappearing. It also means that the photo studio is closing down. Sang-ho and Pei Nam-kao left the world soon after. Pei Nam-kao couldn't let go of his wife before he left, but he didn't want to stay any longer. He asked Kizu to meet the flower store owner. He asked him to take care of his wife instead. Lee Seon-ho, who was being interrogated, realized that his father didn't care about him. Lee Seon-ho began to pull his father down. He was so angry that he wanted to beat him to death. That's how he got into trouble with the public. Pei Nam-kao found Kizu. He planned to leave tomorrow with a photo. He held out his right hand. At this moment, he is slowly turning into a ghost. Pei Nam-kao didn't want to hurt innocent people. The next night, Kizu took out Pei Nam-kao's old police uniform. He asked him to change into it for a handsome photo shoot. When he was ready, Kizu started taking pictures. Then he realized that the camera had lost its effect. Then the evil spirit came in. Pei Nam-kao fought with the ghost. Kizu looked at the door of the dead. Kizu tried to send the camera back. Pei Nam-kao stopped the evil spirit. That's when something happened. The evil spirit entered Pei Nam-kao's body. He's controlling Pei Nam-kao to strike at Kizu. Pei Nam-kao is guarding his last ounce of consciousness. He told Kizu to kill himself. Only by doing so can he kill the evil spirit. But at the same time, Pei Nam-kao would lose his chance to be reincarnated. Kizu stabbed Pei Nam-kao with his wounds. The ghost was killed. Pei Nam-kao disappeared in front of Kizu. The camera marks on Kizu's body began to disappear. This means that his curse has been removed. Soon Kizu was expelled from the studio. On the other hand, the mark on Han Chun's hand started to become clearer and clearer. As the curse disappeared, the camera was nowhere to be found. It was time to close the studio. Kizu went out and found Pei Nam-kao's wife here. She wanted to know if her husband was still here, but she was too late. Pei Nam-kao had already disappeared. Kizu took out something Pei Nam-kao had given him. Inside was a divorce agreement. He said Pei Nam-kao had wanted a divorce for a long time. Now she can pursue her own happiness. Thinking back to the past, now they are separated from each other. Looking at the cold divorce papers in her hands, the wife could not hold back her tears. fears. Since the closure of the photo studio, Han Chen's body seems to have become very weak. She often felt cold, and she was afraid that Kizu would worry about not telling him about the seal. Then Kizu opened a photo studio again, but this time, the group of photographers became human beings, but Kizu could still see ghosts. When he saw the ghost coming towards him, he clasped his hands in fear, but the ghosts didn't bother him. It seems that after the curse is gone, the ghosts have stopped targeting him. Han Chuan is now often noticed by the ghosts. She can only resist looking at them, but the ghost knows that Han Chuan can see her. They keep influencing her, so that Han Chuan often acts out of character. This seriously affected the discipline of the court. In the end, she was asked to leave by the judge. Han Chuan was getting cold. Kizu had to go to the drugstore to buy her medicine, but as he walked out the door, something like a boundary appeared. Everything stopped instantly. Then a messenger from hell appeared in front of him, and this messenger is the origin of the curse. Kizu learned from the Hespawn that the camera doesn't disappear. It will look for the next target, and the curse will continue, and that person is now Han Chuan. Han Chuan walked into the studio and found the camera. She went over and touched it. The contract was made. Kizu rushed back. He found the mark on Han Chen's hand. He asked her when it started. Han Chuan said it was the day Pei Nam cow disappeared. Now it's all settled. Kizu thought it was all over, but he didn't realize that Han Chuan was still involved. That explains why Han Chuan has been feeling cold a lot, because the ghostly door of the photo studio was opened. It aggravated the ghostly aura of Han Chuan. When she met the ghost guest again, Han Chuan promised to help her. Kizu remembered the words of the Hellbringer. As long as the camera exists on Earth, someone must pay the price, but it also means that the person who pays the price can be replaced. Back home, Kizu searched for information. He found his uncle's handwriting. Inside was a series of dates. A search showed that they were all dates when the black moon appeared. That means he must have found something. Kizu plans to check out the area around the accident tunnel. There's also a 100-year-old temple there. There might be some information there, so Kizu set out on his own. He arrived at the temple. One of the masters told him that there is a place that is said to be the closest to hell. On the day of the black moon, there will be a portal to hell, and the location was in that tunnel. Kizu instantly realized why his uncle had gone there, and there was nothing in front of Kizu. The guru was also a dead soul. Kizu found Han Chuan. He told her that he would send the camera back to hell. Only then will it be over. Perhaps his uncle had the same idea. Soon Kizu set out to return the camera. Then Kizu set a time to go. Han Chuan knew he couldn't be persuaded. He could only tell him to come back early. I'll be waiting for him. On the day of the black moon, Kizu went through a lot of difficulties. He finally found the door to hell. He jumped down into hell. As the camera was taken away by Kizu, the studio began to be attacked by ghosts. Han Chuan and his men had to flee, and Han Chuan was soon overtaken and attacked by the ghosts. Kizu came to the place where the camera was returned, and was told by the messenger of hell that without the camera's guidance, no living person could leave hell. So Kizu had only two choices: take the camera and go back the way he came, or leave the camera behind and stay in hell forever. Save Han Chuan or save himself. Kizu chose to return the camera without hesitation. He was soon lost on his way back. With the camera in place, the ghosts that attacked Han Chuan began to be destroyed. The mark of the camera also began to disappear. Han Chuan knew that Kizu had succeeded, but soon she realized that Kizu had not returned. And so a year passed. Han Chuan finally sent Minister Li to prison. Sang Ho became a ghost teacher. His powers were even stronger. Only Kizu was still lying on the ground, in a daze. Someone seemed to be calling him. He opened his eyes. He realized it was his dead twin brother, Yun Hai. He had come to guide Kizu home. Soon he brought Kizu to the gate of the dead. Kiz's good karma had brought him back to life. Han Chuan saw Kiz's back when he came home. She thought it was a hallucination. After all, she had seen it countless times over the past year. Kizu hugged her tightly. It was then that Han Chuan realized that Kizu had really come back. This is the end of the movie.